Hey everyone, welcome back to Dubious Engineering. How's this for a modern take on old school retro nostalgia? So we've got a Nintendo DS, big one for my old eyes, and it's running Chukie on the ZX Spectrum. How cool is that? RetroRecollections showed me how to do this over a Skype call. Let's check it out. Anyway, on the show today, we have the pleasure of Mr. Dangerous, Mr. RetroRecollections.
RetroRecollections is my YouTube channel, which I've started about 4 months ago and really enjoying doing, covering all sorts of little bits and bobs, you know, mainly my memories and ramblings of what I did in my childhood and my current midlife crisis of reliving it all with all the gadgets. And I'm really having a lot of fun just sharing that, and people seem to enjoy watching it, so I'm carrying on.
That's absolutely superb. I noticed that you had a video out recently, and it was... you had a ZX Spectrum, like a 48K style rubber keyboard looking ZX Spectrum, working on a Nintendo DS. And I thought to myself, it would be really cool if I could have a play with some old Spectrum games on my DS. And we got in touch with each other, and you very kindly offered to give me a little bit of guidance on how to make that happen.
Sure. Yeah, it's, as I said to you before, it's relatively simple. That you've got the right equipment. This is my I've got a little DS Lite here that I picked up a while back on eBay with quite a few games, and on the listing, I noticed amongst the games, it cost me about £27, something like that. There was about 7 or 8 games, boxed games with it, and a couple of loose. And I noticed in the picture, in the background, there was this. I don't know if you can see that, but that's an Edge card, which is very similar to an R4. And I'm assuming the seller had no clue what it was, because it was just amongst the bundle of games. So I thought, oh, for that price, that's a no-brainer. So I picked it all up and got it all working. And yes, it's a great little device that you can put lots of emulators on and homebrew. There's some really good DS homebrew. I've still got a lot of exploring to do, as you know, I've been busy doing other systems at the minute. But I recently wanted to get into more Spectrum stuff, because I never had a Spectrum as a child. I was a Commodore kid. I had a Commodore 16, as you've probably seen on my videos. I ramble on about that quite a lot. It's not the best machine in the world, but because I had it as a kid, it's something I really have a lot of nostalgia for, and I'm going back playing loads of the games. But and I've played a couple of Spectrum games over the years, but I've never had one. I've had friends that had one when I was a child, and I've played them on those, but I've never had one myself. So I really wanted to try and explore that, and I'm going to be exploring it via emulation, because I've still got to get myself a Spectrum. But in the meantime, I thought I'll try some handheld emulation, as well as eventually getting it on the main system to maybe do some videos on it on the system. But yeah, it's very straightforward. Just did a bit of Googling, got a bit of advice, and figured out that probably one of the best homebrew apps for emulators for the DS is called ZXDS. And forgive me, I haven't got the URL to hand, but I'm sure you can find that and add it in somewhere. But basically, if you just Google ZXDS emulator, it'll come up. And if you've got an R4 card or a similar card set up, it's as straightforward as literally putting the ZXDS folder on the card. The internal menu system of the card will find it. You click on it. You've got a folder for all your ROMs, so to speak, or zip files with your games, and from there, basically where you go. When it gets complicated, is actually a slightly bit of learning curve on the setup, which we can talk about. But other than that, getting it set up to actually work and fire up is fairly straightforward.
So I'm very much the same as you, in the sense that I've never owned a Spectrum. Well, in fact, I do now. I've got a ZX81 that I found and restored. But I've never owned a Spectrum 48K. I've always played them at friends' houses, and Daley Thompson bashing the keys and all that kind of stuff. Really good fun. Yeah. So I'm quite keen to have a play around with on. Also, like yourself, at some point in the future, I'd like to see if I can find a 48K somewhere that that I can perhaps buy, and maybe something with a few little problems that I can restore always makes me feel happy that I've brought something back to life.
Let's have a look. Right, so now you should be able to see it. Can you see that now?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Now
So that's the key. So that's the key. It should be the keyboard. It's hard to right. So then you can change the keyboard. That's the original 48K keyboard. And if you click on that, you can get the other keyboard as well. So it's pretty nifty. So that's the +2, is it, or the?
Yeah, the 128K, the plastic,
yes.
The plastic keyboard. Yeah.
Right. It's a better angle, isn't it? There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Right. So. Yeah. So that bit is the easy bit. If you see along, I'll try and do this backwards. If you see along the top bar there's quite a few different functions on there. Obviously, the keyboard will work as a keyboard if you use your stylus and everything. But on there, you've got different things. So you might not be able to see it easily, but I'll read them out. So you've got I/O, so that's where you basically load stuff in. So I'll just load something in just to show you that works. So you click on the I/O, then you've got the back button, load file, save file. You can load a slot, which is basically a game save, game state. And you can save one, and there's a Wi-Fi function. I've not explored half of these yet. You just click on load file. This is actually emulating the 128 as by default. You can change that, but there's very few games that are not compatible with the 128, so they usually just leave it there. We'll click on load file. So then you just have to navigate using these. So back into, and then that takes you into the menu system. So I've got a folder just named Spectrum, and then I've put a few games in there somewhere. Let's see, Chukie, here we go. So basically find that, click on A, and then just go down to the tap file. These are tap files, so they're like tape. And then what's cool about it is, if you see there, I don't know if you can see that, you can see that it's loading in the background.
It was instant. It was almost instant. Yeah.
What you got to do here now, because it's easily done. If you don't come out of this screen, anytime you press on it, it'll just reload it. So if you go back to keyboard, and then you're out of the way, you can actually play the game with Chukie, because it's a keyboard. I think it's a keyboard game anyway, isn't it, Chukie?
Yeah.
I don't think there is joystick support, but on Chukie itself, you can change the keys, but it's easier just to change the keys on the emulator to match whatever Chukie offering you. So, for example, you can basically, if you go to, you have to go back. Let me know if I'll move over a little bit so you can see this. You go back and then you go to controls on here. You'll see there's a set of controls set up already. I've set predefined one of the. You've got different things like Kempston joysticks, cursor, Sinclair 2, keys 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can set up 4 different types of key presets, as well as the standard joystick presets. So on, I think it's keys 1, I've basically set. Just bear with me. Yeah, I've set keys 1 up to emulate the key setup of Chukie anyway, because I already played this one. So that is all. You're all set to go there. So then, if you go back to keyboard, you should be able to start the game. So it's S to start. There you go.
And off it goes. I can imagine you can probably get, because the size of the games for the ZX Spectrum were normally relatively small, I suppose you can probably get quite a lot of games on the game cart as well.
Yes.
Leaving lots of space for everything else.
Yes, you can. Because obviously, I've got, I can't remember, I think it's a 16 gigabyte SD micro SD card in here, so you can pretty much fill it with everything. If you've got the entire back catalogue of games. And as I said, I've got Spectrum, I've got Master System, I've got quite a few others. The DS is a very good device, I think, for 8-bit and previous to the 8-bit systems. You can get away with some 16-bit, but it does struggle because it's only a little processor in here, you know. But when it does play them, it plays them very well. So all the 8-bit stuff, you know, I love the Master System. That was one of my childhood systems, and it plays fantastic on here.
Well, the Master is in the Sega,
yes.
Yeah, not the BBC.
No, that is something I had at school, and I've got fond memories of that, and finding the games on the network at school when I should be working as well. But yeah, we won't go into that.
I'm probably going to have a go at putting this together, putting a version of this on my R4 card, which is in here. So it is a 208-in-1 Nintendo DS R4 card. So it has, at the moment, it has a 16GB micro SD card in there. Right. So inside that, sorry, just to show people, inside that R4 card is a little micro SD card. So so that's actually really quite full at the moment. It's got a lot of stuff on there, but I'll probably have a go at putting that ZX Spectrum emulator on there, and perhaps include that in this video as well. So so that'll be quite good fun. And sure. Thank you ever so much for joining us. And
no problem.
Obviously, ladies and gents, if you haven't already been and seen the Retro Recollections YouTube channel, there'll be a link down in the description area below. Please pop over there, give him a good old thumbs up, and check out some of his videos, most of which are on the Commodore 16.
Yes, most of them are Commodore 16 at the moment, but I am looking to do some other bits. And there's a couple of sort of mods and repair videos as well. I try to dabble in a little bit of everything. Just do everything a little bit badly.
Yeah, it's like me, dubious. Wicked. Excellent. Well, thanks ever so much for joining us on, and take care, and don't forget, you know, rate, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. It is YouTube, so. Anyway, as I'm sure you'll agree, that is quite cool. A Nintendo DS playing ZX Spectrum games. There are over 15,000 games that you can download today for the ZX Spectrum. So even if you played, you know, one a day, I think that would keep you going for about 40 years. Thanks ever so much for watching. Please give us a good old thumbs up. Make sure you've subscribed if you haven't. There's all sorts of bonkers going on this channel. A T6 van build, various projects, electronics projects. It is an engineering channel ultimately, but I felt the need to show you this. Take care, people. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful weekend. Bye for now.